Good morning. I'm Elise Krickow. I am the Chief Philanthropy Officer here at the Maryland Food Bank, and I want to welcome all of you here in the room and to our friends who are attending virtually through the webinar to our sixth Coffee Talk with Carmen events. I can't believe that we've already done six. This is our sixth one, so it's pretty remarkable. So with that, we began this event about 3 years ago because we really wanted to highlight what we're doing in partnership with other nonprofits in the Baltimore and Maryland communities. And these talks have been inspirational and informational, and our goal is to educate people about the breadth and depth of the work that we're doing to address food insecurity, financial hardship, all things that really contribute to why people need these services. So every talk has been enlightening, and today I'm so excited because we're focusing on our culturally inclusive crops program. And this program is a partnership with local farms and our local pantries who are distributing culturally inclusive crops, foods that people want to see from diverse communities. And we're able to source those and then also distribute them. And so we're really excited to have some partners here today to talk about that. This program is actually made possible through the Feeding America Food Security Equity Impact Fund, which is supported by their corporate foundation and individual donors. We are grateful for the generous support that we've received, which really enables us to purchase crops directly from local farmers here in Maryland and get those distributed through our pantries to diverse communities. So before I turn this over to Carmen and our esteemed guests, I want to do a few housekeeping items. If you're in the room, we love questions. So please, toward the end of the talk today, please raise your hand and I will walk over with our microphone so you can ask your question so folks can hear it. If you are attending via the webinar, please put your question in the Q&A and my colleague Kat Thomas will make sure that we get those questions asked. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Carmen Del Guercio, our president and CEO of the Maryland Food Bank, who will kick us off.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thanks, Elise. Thanks, everybody, for joining here in person and online. It's hard to believe this is our sixth session. I think our first session was in folding chairs in a plastic cup, and now we got a stage and couches, and I got a cup, and so we've come a long way, I'd say, in terms of this session. And I understand that Hoda Kotb, I heard, is retiring, so I thought maybe this could be a good audition type opportunity in this kind of Today Show setting that we have up here. So again, thank you all for joining. We're discussing a topic today that's become increasingly important in the world of food equity and community sustainability, and that is culturally inclusive crops. I mean, at its core, what we're talking about here are crops that are help connect people to their heritage, their ancestors, their cultures. And I would say that I'm coming up on 8 years in this role in food banking. And I think it's safe to say that, 8 years ago, I don't know that this was part of our narrative, right? We didn't talk a lot about culture inclusive crops. And not to say that it wasn't on people's minds, not to say that there weren't some organizations maybe dabbling in it a little bit, but this is something I think that has really accelerated over the last few years as it relates to the focus on providing this opportunity for our neighbors to be able to access the type of foods they're accustomed to accessing because of their background and their heritage. And so the reason we're talking about it today is, one, to make everybody aware of the fact that this is something, I think, from a trend perspective, that you're seeing other food banks begin to do more and more of. I think the other thing that we want to make sure today is to also give you a sense of our approach to that work, which I do think is a bit different than other organizations might be doing. When you think about our involvement with neighbors, our relationship with partners, our relationship with farms, we're taking a very holistic approach to this. And we think that's core to who we are as an organization. We think it's also going to increase overall effectiveness as an organization. We also have to recognize, as a statewide organization, the challenge of us trying to ensure that we're capturing these various cultures across a state that's 13,000 square miles. So I think you're going to find today's program hopefully informative, and another way in which hopefully you get a sense of how we're working with the communities that we serve and the type of things we're doing proactively to try to increase the impact of our organization all across our state. So thank you all for joining. I am incredibly blessed to have two wonderful guests here today. So This is the first time we've had two guests, and obviously to pick me up a little bit more. So I want to take a moment first to introduce Kate Long, our Maryland Food Bank Senior Director of Nutrition. And Kate, you mind talking just a minute or two about your background and your work here at the Maryland Food Bank?
Sure. So my role basically is to ensure that the food is very nutrient dense. We focus on quality, not just quantity. It's not about just pushing pounds in and out. We want food that's going to nurture people, give them what they need, not just in terms of the nutrient piece, but also what suits their wants, what goes with the culture, what goes with the age need, all those details. And also nutrition education is a very big part of it. So promoting and giving information about healthy cooking. Big one, we have a demonstration garden where we do nutrition workshops. So it's those two pieces. First, the food itself, and then helping the community with the knowledge around it.
Great. You've been with us how long?
5 years now, just 5 years. Yep.
And joined us from?
I was at Gleaner's Community Food Bank, which is in Michigan, Southeast Michigan. And before that, I actually did quite a bit of farming myself back in Michigan.
Great. Well, thank you. So as excited as I am to have Kate here, I'm even more excited to have one of our partners, Bukola Daramola. Bukola is a community leader and pantry coordinator at Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG, right, of Mercy Court. Bukola's pantry is located in Govans. Govans is located in the city, for those of you who might not know. It is one of our hunger hotspots. For those of you who may not be familiar with that term, if you can go to our website, you get more information about it. But it's a community that the need is high and the access is low. And that we as an organization have identified communities all across our state that have those characteristics. And we're trying to take more proactive steps to reach deeper in those communities to have a greater impact. And so Bukola's organization is smack dab in the middle of one of our hunger hotspots. Her RCCG of Mercy Court has been a partner now for just about 2 years, coming up on 2 years, I understand. So welcome, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. Could you just take a couple minutes just to talk a little bit about your journey, but then maybe also the type of work that you're doing at RCCG?
Thank you. I've looked forward to this event, and I'm happy that it's coming to pass. It has been awesome working with Maryland Food Bank. Let me back up and say a little bit about myself. I'm an immigrant. I came into the US 5 years ago. I came in as a student, and I came into the COVID. I know how hard this was for me, recognizing that I'm not connected to my community anymore, and I can't really access what I know how to eat all my life. It was a huge challenge to me. Over the time I grew, I've been working as a registered nurse back in my country, and I still work as a registered nurse in the US. And when I got to this role as the community coordinator of the RCCG Mexico and the pantry coordinator, and I got connected with Maryland Food Bank and with Kate, I discovered the possibility of getting what looks impossible to me. Even when I started working as a registered nurse, I had the money to get some stuffs, but it's not available. So what do? I can't travel home to get them. It's perishable. It won't get it fresh. And when I got connected to Maryland Food Bank, I saw possibility in the midst of my thoughts of impossibility. And yeah, we are in the community where people really need what Maryland is providing. Baltimore City has a lot of immigrants. I serve diverse populations, and through Maryland Food Bank, we'll be meeting the needs of this community.
How did you land in Baltimore? Was the education component that brought you to our city?
Yeah, it's the education component. I'm currently a doctoral student. I'm doing my doctoral study in public health. That was what brought me to Baltimore. And from there, I haven't been a registered nurse. I took my board exam. It was tough. I passed. And I could continue my practice. I've been practicing as a registered nurse for 20 years, and I could continue the flow now. And yeah, that was what brought me. And meeting my church, getting connected to the church. For some reason, they saw my potential, and funny enough, that is what I know how to do best. I have a background in health education. Just like Kate mentioned, I'm looking forward to the second part of the community engagement program in my church to start educating people about essential of good nutrients and to switch from just providing the food to education, which is part of my background. So for me, education brought me, but community keeps me going. Thank you.
So let me get this straight. So you run a pantry, you're raising a family, you are a registered nurse, and you work on your doctorate. Did I miss anything?
Yes, and
That's enough.
Not sure how I can be up on the stage. Let's say, here you go. Have a nice, enjoy the rest of the program. That's amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule for sure to talk a little about today about the impact we're trying to have.
thank you.
We talked about how culture inclusive crops has started to be integrated into more and more organizations, food banking organizations' core missions. It is fully ingrained in our strategic direction, our strategic plan as an organization, what we call MFB 3.0, and specifically one of our pillars in terms of improving access to nutritious food and promoting more equitable food systems. For us, basically, culturally inclusive crops not only promotes food equity, but it does it by recognizing and valuing diverse traditions and the preferences of various communities. And that's one of the things you're going to hear today from Bukola in terms of what she's seeing in her role in her community and how she's trying to respond. And Kate is obviously working with other folks in other communities. And so we'll talk a bit about how we're trying to capture that and make sure that we're providing types of food those communities want. Culturally inclusive crops ensures that marginalized groups have access to the foods that are significant to their heritage. So that's core to what culture inclusive crops is. And then there's I won't say a side benefit, but another benefit. That's a benefit to the communities they serve, to the neighbors they serve. But there's also a benefit to the community in that we're empowering communities and fostering kind of economic resilience because we are engaging with farmers, buying food from local farms, urban farms, small farms, medium-sized farms, large farms, who are looking to who also may be interested in promoting this product into their community, supporting their heritage, but also trying to thrive and make a living as an organization. So that's an additional benefit that we're experiencing from our focus on culture inclusive crops. It also fits nicely into our DEI work, right? It's not only diversity of product, it's equity in the distribution systems, it's more inclusive in the food system. And so our DEI journey has been about 3 years old now. It's very internally focused, if you will, in terms of helping us individually and collectively begin to apply an equity lens to our work. And so while it's internally focused, it is starting to manifest itself externally. And this is an example of that in terms of the decisions that we're making as an organization as a result of our DEI journey that are helping us be better, hopefully, and getting better every day at doing this. So that's a little backdrop of how it fits into our strategic plan, why it's incredibly important to us, and how we've positioned it in terms of the work we do. I'm going to stop talking, let our experts do more talking. And so with that backdrop, Kate, you mind just talking, we'll prompt you to start advocating for culture inclusive crops. I mean, you talked about your 5-year journey here. It was about nutrition, it was about farmers access, but then this little kind of deeper focus on culture inclusive crops. What drove that?
So at the end of the day, it's about the dignity of choice. Everybody should be able to look and have access. This is what I would like. This is what I'm familiar with. And not just be given a food that someone else thinks might be suitable, or maybe someone likes it. No, it has to be the neighbor's voice. The neighbor says, right? And we make it possible. So an example, what's really basic, a staple to one culture isn't necessarily going to be that to another one. There's the assumption, canned foods, so common in the US. This is very much a staple. You're going to see it all over. Now, when we started doing the listening sessions and chatting with neighbors and chatting with pantries, a gentleman from Haiti shared with me that when his mom came over from Haiti, he had to teach her how to use a can opener. Had no idea. This woman was well into her 60s, never seen one. But if we had kept doing those assumptions, that a huge population in Maryland would just have not gotten what they wanted and they needed. And the more we've done this over the last few years, the more we've seen that. So it is about neighbor voice, dignity of choice, making sure there's a big variety and that there is that access.
And how do those get uncovered in terms of the potential types of foods?
That it was really cool how it just went from one step to another and built on itself. I just heard through the grapevine that there was a mysterious farmer somewhere on the Eastern Shore that was growing really neat crops. And so I just did the Google search and I found out an amazing farmer and professor, Dr. Nadine Burton, on the Eastern Shore, herself came over from Jamaica, and she had the idea that she was going to teach other farmers how to do niche crops. She thought this is a great market to open up to the farmers. So she started Around the Bay Farm Alliance, and she taught the farmers to do it. The individuals who are from Maryland didn't know it themselves, thought it was a great opportunity. So I heard about her, and she was looking for a market, and we were connected with her and Around the Bay Farm Alliance, which she ran. So here we knew we had farmers who were going to grow crops that they said were really common in West Indies, West Africa in particular, different parts of South America, Central America. So we have a source, right, for just the kind of foods we're looking for to get into. So who the specific pantry neighbors are that need it, because we have so many different cultures. Since we know a lot about the different regions, the different needs, we focused in on 2 pantries on the Eastern Shore who we know served a large Haitian population. We knew that there was a big need for that. So brought all these together. And it would have been easy for us to just research. You know, the farmers gave us a list of 6 crops that they had been taught, right? We could have just gone online and said, okay, what foods would individuals from Haiti want? We don't do it like that at all. We sit down with the neighbors and we talk to them. So the pantry was kind enough to let us sit down with neighbors and ask. And it was really casual conversation. We sat down, gave the list of crops and just chatted. What's most useful? You know, if you think of Asia, South America, Central America, how huge is that area, right? It's not as if that's going to say everybody, or even the people in the pantries, the particular pantries. We keep this incredibly specific. So they told us that, but listening sessions, the sitting down with neighbors, absolutely invaluable. There are so many things we found out that we never even thought to ask. It was when you're face to face, you find out what you didn't know. One example from that, we had asked, would you like jute? That's on the list, right? If we had just jute. I didn't even know that was edible. It's one of the most common plants there are, and it is jute, like with twine. Right? So this was very much a listening opportunity for me. It turns out it's not called jute in Haiti like it is in Jamaica. It's called lalu. They told me it was the #1 most wanted vegetable. If we had just looked online, is jute, it would have said nope, because it wouldn't have even pulled up as lalu, right? So we sat down and we knew that. Another thing is we found out that typical type of hot pepper, they're called Scotch bonnet, really, really popular. But we didn't know until we chatted with everybody that the people we spoke to didn't want it harvested orange. The very few times they've seen it in the US, it's been orange. They want it green. We were able to chat with the farmers because there's that connection, and that's what we asked for. So that was the first year. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger with all the different listening sessions. And we've learned so much from so many different cultures. And as we've brought in more farmers, been able to partner with more farmers, a lot of the farmers are themselves from the different regions. So we've learned from them. And it's just this huge convening of farmers, MFB, neighbors, and the pantries.
Thank you. So you hear a lot about neighbor voice, right? This is a critical focus for us as an organization as well. So we don't sit here in Halethorpe thinking we have all the answers of what's appropriate in Pocomoke or Oakland or Cumberland or Baltimore City for that matter. And so neighbor voice is something that we've increasingly tried to incorporate into our activities. Our regional program directors who are on the ground in these communities every day are trying to engage neighbors to better understand their needs and their experiences. So you want to talk a little bit about how you've incorporated neighbor voice into your work?
Yeah, to pick it up from where Kate stopped, when we needed to go into this program, the first thing I did on my side was I had my community saying things like, we don't like this canned food. If I take it home, I'm not going to take it. It will just be there and I'll trash it. I'm like, okay, what do we do? I approach Kate and I'm like, okay, I want to organize a focus group section and I want it to be there. And she was like, oh, that sounds good. So we had a 12-member focus group session, and we deliberated and we asked them questions because I told her I want them to speak by themselves. I don't want to translate what they are telling me to you. I want Maryland Food Bank to hear directly from the end users. And at the end of the meeting, we discovered that they appreciate what we are getting from Maryland Food Bank, but they want to be closer to their source. They want to be closer to their origin. They just don't want to be fed, but they want their culture to reflect in what they eat. So that brought about the introduction of the cultural inclusive crop into our own pantry. And I remember we didn't stop at that focus group discussion. We normally have community program outreaches, engagement. So during one of our outreaches, Kate brought the food items, like visibly, we put it down, and we needed to be sure that what they say is actually what they mean. And to our surprise, we had a survey paper. Can you tick the one you want according to your priority, according to the way? Boom, everybody wanted everything. I'm like, okay, I also want them. So good. How do we go about it? And she was able to pull the pantry into the grant. We started the process. The first year was awesome. The crops came as expected. We have some little challenges with time on my side. At times, I'm in and out, but we were able to figure it out. I had a good rapport with the farmer, and everything went pleasant. And the second year was this year. I remember when it was towards the end of, I think, May, one of the community members walked up to me and said, I'm still eating one of the crop I stored in my freezer because I can get it nowhere and I have to store it. And it's almost gone. We are waiting. When are you coming with the crops? I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's Lord. I have to reach out to Kate that this is what I'm hearing again. And and also they were asking for more. What was not provided? Because actually there are some crops we identify with. When I say we, I mean my community. I work with diverse community. I work with Asian, more to the African, West African, East African. And there are some crops they are really like, they really wanted, but it's not part of what was done last year. And when I spoke with Kate again, I mean, she has a way of talking to the farmers. And lo and behold, boom, we've been approved, we get it. And when I told my community that we're expecting this, they can't wait. And when it came, oh my God, they keep on like, I like this, and it's something they always look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
How does that change your relationship to your neighbors? I mean, so the neighbors provide a voice, you respond, right? So it seems to me that would create a level of trust, to build stronger relations in an effort for you to help them in other ways, right? We talk a lot about root cause work here at the food bank. And so could you talk a little bit about how the relationship you've begun to develop because of the fact that you have asked these questions, you've engaged neighbors in these conversations, you've responded? How does that help impact your work?
Yeah, it goes beyond trust alone. It goes into like seeing myself as their true representative, because one of them has ever told me that some of the things they bring to us are things that to surplus that they don't need elsewhere and they just dump it. But now they're beginning to see that they are the center of anything they are bringing to them. It's not just about what they don't need, but it's about what they actually ask for. So it's beyond trust. And they are also seeing Maryland Food Bank as an organization that is responsive, because for them, they saw the reflection of everything they discussed during the focus group. They saw it live, and they have more confidence Like anytime I go to if we need to do a community outreach and I send out flyers, I always see like more people coming than usual. And I must tell you, the church that has, I mean, that's my church, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Church of God, has grown as a result of this, because that is where we have our pantry, and that is where they come to pick up stuff. And when they come, they go beyond just picking up their veggies. They ask more questions, and it has made us to grow. It has made the community to trust us, to believe in what we do, and they see us as people that they can talk to, and they know they will get results. They see us as not just trying to end hunger, but we are trying to give them some nutritious food and what would be beneficial to them. So I think it's beyond trust, is into like a mutual relationship. Yeah.
Well said. That's what the dignity is
Thank
all
you.
about right there. Kate, how do we replicate that? I mean, how do you scale something like this? Because this is high touch, very personal, very relationship oriented versus transactional. How do we do that? How do you do that?
Well, we've been so lucky in that we've expanded it geographically, more farmers and more crops. So as I said, the first year there was the list of a certain number of given crops and it was choose from, please. Then as we went higher, we were able to switch it over to getting the farmer in the room, right? So we knew the next year we were going to expand to a couple more pantries, and we did so. We had another gentleman, an amazing farmer from Cameroon, and he came with us. So the next step was to farmers in the room, we're in the room, neighbors are in the room. And instead of here's the list of crops, it's open-ended. What would you like? We had all kinds of stuff. Some things the farmers like, absolutely, I didn't know people would want that. Or this is just another thing, plantains. Unfortunately, Maryland, you can't do it because of the climate, right? So we all worked together, and at the end of the day, we had this list of stuff that was possible, that was wanted. So the next way to replicate is get it just bigger as far as the variety. And like we said, it's very specific. So a couple pantries at a time without losing that connected touch. So we went from, I think at this point we have 12 different crops. We're in the majority of Maryland. And then also we had 3 farmers growing with us for the first year. Now we have 7, and we have 7 pantries as opposed to the 2. So it's just building the every year, build more, the crops, the culture served, the farmers we work with, the region. But it's been incredibly successful. This past year, because we thought, oh, how are we going to get more farmers that are aware of it? Because we can't expect the Eastern Shore farmers to come over here. We want it to be hyper local, right? Plus the need now for them is so big, or the demand from them. So you're like, okay, we're going to have to really do some digging to find more farmers who know to do this. But we found that farmers started coming to us. This year we had 3 people cold call us. A gentleman from Ghana, a family from Jamaica, and then a young woman, a returning farmer who her dad's from Kenya, taught her to grow those crops, and now she's returning to agriculture. So they called, they said, we heard that you do this, we have some crops. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. She came out of the woodwork. And it's just been wonderful. The word's gotten out in the farm community, just like it has in the neighbors, that it's available.
How would you describe these farms? Mostly community-based, local?
Yes, they're mostly small, very, very local. We match the pantries to, because it's one specific farmer matched to a different pantry, and do that by location and by connecting everyone. So the farmers small, a lot of times they're family farms. A lot of times these are new farmers, either new to farming in general or new to farming in Maryland if they've immigrated. So it works so well. And then there's the mutual learning piece, right? A lot of them, if they're they're so kind, because a lot of these farmers, especially if they came over, they had that experience of, I really want this food kernel. They'll grow it, and some were just donating it just because it meant so much. They'd find their neighborhood and just give it. So part of it is it's important to us that we give a price. We want to respect what these farmers do, right? But so they're small, maybe they're new, and we got to learn about what that looked like. How do you work with very small direct? It was their first time working with a large institution, right? Which is very different than just growing a small amount for your neighbors. So we just did it at a team and as a team and figured it out with the neighbors right there leading us. It was great.
It's awesome. You know, as an organization, we've increased our focus on nutrition, the variety of product we're providing. That all has come at a cost. That model is more expensive in terms of our ability to ensure that we're giving people, neighbors that we're serving, access to this type of food. What are you seeing from a price perspective with regard to this type of product vis-a-vis some of our core products, if you will, that we would typically buy from farms?
It is a big difference. You know, a food bank can get something 30 cents a pound if they get it from really far out and it was harvested days ago. But for a small scale large farmer, really, you would need, most of our crops is about $4.50 a pound, $4 a pound. So it's much pricier, but that's why a farmer can get a living, make a living. You know, there are so many few farmers than there were generations ago because people are leaving farming the next generation because they can't make a living. But we wanted to respect these farmers and give them what they've earned. So it is more expensive to us. The need is there, and we just keep hoping we can keep it going.
Yep. No, absolutely. And again, that's the other benefit is these farms play such a critical role in their communities, as a sense of pride, as a sense of jobs. And so I think there's an additional benefit to that as well, but it is a costlier model, but we're committed to making sure that we're continuing down this journey because we think it's critically important. Did you have an experience recently of visiting a farm, and what was that like, and what did you learn from that firsthand versus them coming to you? You went to them.
Yeah. When I heard about the farm, I told myself I need to see. You know, I always go with my nursing senses. Like, I want to see what they are bringing to me. I want to see the source. I want to see the plantation. I want to see the environment. And I want to be sure I'm getting what they said I'm getting. So I told my husband, let's do the drive. It was like 1 hour to my house. We went there.
How far from your house?
Just like an hour drive to my house. And lo and behold, I'm like, am I in the US or I'm back into my country? Because for me, that was the first time I was going to a farm in Maryland, even in the US. And when I saw the work the farmers were doing, it was amazing to me how they're able to put all those efforts to place. You know, it's not, sometimes they have to use I think the green belt, not the natural ground. They have to do a lot of works to make sure that the pests, the animals do not get on it. I was able to touch the plant growing. I was able to see each crops the way they are. And I was able to ask a lot of questions. And I didn't stop at the actual farm that I came to. My curiosity took me all over the farm. I went from one farm to another to compare the kind of grain, the color of what I'm about to get to what other farmers are producing. And my expectation was not cut short because the one we are expected to receive from our farmer is as good as what other people around are producing. So for me, I was able to come back to my community. I took a lot of pictures. And my pictures, I just flung it everywhere. Bukola in the farm, yeah. And I went back to my community and I told them affirmatively, I've seen the crop, this is what we're expecting. I've been there, it's natural, there's no chemical, it's organic. And anytime I'm talking about the crop, they'll be like, oh, that your organic crop. I say, absolutely. So for me, going to the farm made a lot of difference to me. I was able to relate what I'm about to get to where it's coming from. And when the farmer is talking to me, I can understand what he's saying. When he's telling me, oh, my volunteers did not, I could relate everything, any challenge he's having, I could relate with it because I've been there and I saw what he's saying. And yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
And it is so fresh. Like, it is really hard to get, impossible to get stuff it's harvested hours before the neighbors come to pick it up.
Yeah.
The longest it ever is the night before. I mean, it is as fresh as it gets. if you were to get food from other state, it takes days. It goes through that big chain, but a farmer drops it off and they know the pantry face to face, and they insist on it too. They're like, we want our food to be there right away. It means a lot to them, this food. They put their heart and soul in it, and they're going to make sure it's good. And it's just so direct and so meaningful. And we've learned so much at the food bank too about these foods, and in addition to asking neighbors what they want in the beginning, we also reconvene at the end, kind of feedback, how'd everything go, with the food bank and working in general, how can we improve? And one example is the first year we had done a lot of the lalo for one pantry in particular because they liked it. But then we found out later on it wasn't getting taken, even though they had asked for twice as much. We're like, this doesn't make sense. Why is it not being taken? This was what was asked even more for it. So we had a chat, and it turns out that this is a different variety of lalo. There's more than one type of that plant. Farmer didn't realize, the farmer was learning too, and this one had more stem that was done. So we keep open communication. It's not just a one-time sit down and that's that. We're really lucky that we have farmers that are so flexible and pantries that are all flexible, because the pantries and the farmers work really close. I mean, I know now that you talk to Aswana regularly, like every week with it, but to have that big connection is a big deal. And if a farmer, if you're working with a local farmer, it's not necessarily going to go as they'd expected. Maybe you have a pest problem, maybe you have this problem. It happens. So the Maryland Food Bank, one thing that we offer is flexibility. If they were selling to another institution, they'd be in a position where they get a contract. They're going to be, they might lose that customer if they don't give it. With us, we had someone say, well, the eggplant, it just didn't work, but we've got a whole lot of water leaf. And, called out, well, let's say, is this going to work? Said, yes, absolutely. And we switched it over. Same thing is we're learning. We know because we were told, please get these peppers. So we contracted for those peppers, but maybe we got the wrong quantity. So we talked to the farmers like, do you have any more of, I think this one was the bitter melon. And so it's this constant learning as you go the whole way through.
Nutrition education.
Yeah, definitely. And with the education piece, we even had one of the farmers from Ghana say that he knew it was very nutrient dense. His pantry serves a lot of people from West Africa, and that's why there was the connection. But that pantry serves more cultures than just West Africa. He's like, I know this food is really healthy, and I want to teach other cultures too. So we're organizing now. He's going to do a cooking demo so that anybody who's never, like me, who had never seen tallow or any of this in our lives. So now it's helping not just the cultures for whom it's familiar. Anybody who walks through all of a sudden knows how and has access to a brand new leafy green full of iron, and we all learn.
Absolutely. I'm going to switch gears in a bit because I want Bukola to talk a little bit about, we're going to zoom out a little bit, just talking about what you're seeing in your pantry in terms of demand and needs. But before I do that, was there anything that we didn't touch on that we wanted to make sure we covered here for our audience? I think nutrition education is an interesting concept that we might want to consider talking more about in the future at one of these sessions. I mean, Kate came out about, as she said, about 5 years ago, because we quickly realized that despite our focus on nutrition, that we couldn't just distribute, what we think to be healthier product and expect the community to just take it, right? Didn't know how to cook it, didn't know how it tastes, never seen it before, whatever the issues might be. And so it was critically important, at least for me, to realize that we have to think differently about how we approach this work and the importance of nutrition education. And it's a story that still resonates with me. It happened to me the first year I was here, maybe a year and a half. I was at an elementary school down the road, Riverview Elementary, and a counselor was providing food to a neighbor, and it was for fresh potatoes, a bag of potatoes. And the neighbor said, was looking at it like almost like didn't know what to do. And the woman would said that, well, you can, bake potatoes and mashed potatoes and going through the thing, various ways and you can prepare it. And the woman straight on just said to her, ma'am, potatoes come in a can, right?
Yep.
So eye-opening to me of what we got to do. So that's when I started to shift my mindset, sorry about that. My mindset a little about, this is not about just pushing out more healthier food. This is really about how do we begin to educate folks about how to use that food. So,
Mhm.
so I think that's a good topic for a future session for sure.
Yeah, and we see that with kids out in the demonstration garden all the time. For them to pull a carrot, any kind of root veggie, and then look at it in awe, like, what is this? They don't recognize it because they're used to seeing it in a bag.
Yeah.
If they've seen it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bukola, talk a little bit about what you're seeing these days. And we talk often as an organization about the fact that need continues to be great. We're trying to respond to that as best we can. Inflation is putting, strain on families. What are you seeing by way of demand in your pantry, and any other observations that you care to share?
Yeah, I have a growing pantry, like growth in terms of the people we serve, in terms of the demand, in terms of the needs. And part of the reason is I serve, as I said, diverse immigrant community, and we have a good flow of, when people come into the US, I serve mostly zip code 21212. When people come, the cost of living there is moderately good and a little affordable. And people, different cultures, when they come around there, once their economy is growing a little, they kind of like migrate to another place, and you see another state coming. So when it comes to meeting their demands, is an ever-growing demand, and their demand is always like large enough for us to, and Maryland, what my farmer is supplying is actually meeting the demand. And one thing I'm grateful for is that we don't experience waste. For some reason, these people have longed to have this food item. And now that they have it without paying for it, they've learned how to store it in their own way, so that when winter comes and they can't access it, they still have it. And when I asked them, oh, we wanted to get it always fresh, they said, in as much as I got it fresh, even if I'm eating it like 4 months time, it's still fresh. Because I prep it, I took care of it, and I'm sure there's no chemical added to it, and it's as good as I'm taking it like the first day it was harvested. So we're able to meet up to these growing demands. And I remember Kate mentioned there are some times that maybe due to the climate, some of the crops might not come out as expected, like garden egg might not come out boom as we expected it, and some other crops might come out in larger quantity. So we have a way of making a substitute for those that we couldn't get, and to the ones that we have in larger quantity, to really meet to the demand of the people. And I have a way of asking them, because anytime we are sharing, I'm always at the table. I'm always right there asking them questions, trying to answer their questions, either nutritional questions or questions as regard to demand. And I hear people saying, like, we can never have more than enough. We will always appreciate, no matter what you bring to us, we like it. And they will ask, is there no way they can go beyond the summer and cross across winter? I said, we need to migrate to Texas to do that. But they are able to store what they have, and as we are being supplied, they are meeting the demand. No one is left out. And should there be a need that someone did not get what they needed this week, I have a way of telling them, I got your back. Next week, you will be the first person. Even if you didn't come here on time, I reserve for them, and I make sure that they get. So I am happy, the community is happy, and I think Maryland Food Bank is happy too.
Yeah.
How much interaction do you have with other pantries in your community? Are there other pantries in your community, and how do you interact with them? I know we, as an organization, have focused on these regional gatherings where we're bringing partners together in a given community in an effort to try to ensure that people know who else is doing what, when you're open, what kind of product you provide, what other services you might provide. How does that happen, and what does that look like in Govans? I know we have a ways to go as a hunger hotspot, but is there some of that activity occurring today?
Yeah, I know I've not been active when it comes to meeting this year. I will repent, I promise. But
You got a little plug for yourself.
yeah. Thank you, Sarah. She's doing an amazing job. Yeah. So my church, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, has a lot of branches, is an international church, and we have a lot of branches almost like less than like 5 miles away from each other. So many. And some of them run pantries too, and I interact with them. And I discovered that for us, we are in front of everyone. I see a lot of them, like I've gotten like 3 emails of them telling me, how did you key into this? We want to do this, we want to do that. I'm like, okay, I have a lecture to deliver. So I interact with, my interaction with other pantries is positive, and around my zip code, I have other pantries I've forgotten some of the names of it, because at times I used to go there. I present myself as a participant to get a food in order for me to be able to see what others are doing, for me to know how to do my better, and for me to improve. I do that a lot. I just go there. At times when I get there, they will say, which zip code are you from? Can I have your ID? I'm like, oh, they caught me. I would just like my ID and like, please, is there a way I'm a student. I'm actually a student. Is there a way you can give me without my ID? For some reason, my ID is, they say, is it in your car? I'm like, okay, anyway, I interact with other pantries and I see that we are like in front of other pantries when it comes to cultural inclusive food. And I see some other people coming that don't come to us regularly to pick our pantry stuff, but they come only for the cultural inclusive food. Thank you.
Good. Would you say the number of people you're serving is grown, the same, or lower than it was when you started several years ago?
Oh, ever growing, like ever growing, like growing in fact, we had like a fast growth when the issue of I think when we had the bridge, there was a challenge with the bridge, our population shoot up here. And since then, we've been experiencing growth. Sarah has been helpful, like always send the email. If you need anything, let me know. Yeah, we are growing. Yeah.
Because referencing Sarah, one of our regional program directors, again, this is our approach to serving these local communities, again, getting people on the ground in those communities every day to understand those needs in a much deeper way. And so relationships like that are critically important to be able to understand the challenges that a pantry is having and our response to that. I think what I'm going to do then is shift gears and see if we can open the floor to questions, if that's okay, Elise. Do we have some farmers join us today? I thought there was an opportunity potentially some actual farmers were going to join us today. Did that end up working out? Oh, we have one in the back here. Okay.
Yes, Farmer Nia from Beauty Blooms.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Is there anything you want to add to the conversation that we didn't cover that to make sure that we represented you and the work you do?
I would say it's been a really
Can you just introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Nia. I'm the owner operator of Beauty Blooms Farm. We're in Damascus in Montgomery County and drop off in a Howard County, Columbia pantry location. It's been a really great partnership. It's been our first year in the program. Yes. And I would say Millicent, who runs the pantry, it's been great to build a relationship with her. And I would say that getting the feedback from her has been the most important. So I believe they had 3 to 5 neighbors that were originally coming to the pantry at the beginning of the season. Now they have 26. So I think it's just shown that there really is a high need. There's a diverse community of immigrants at this pantry that participate there. And I really enjoy also learning about crops that sometimes are cross-cultural. So callaloo, that is eaten by Caribbean community, is also eaten by Chinese immigrants at the pantry. So just positive feedback from what I've experienced this season.
As these products that you otherwise were already growing, or you have not learned to grow, or what did it change? What did it change to your model? How did it change your business model?
Yeah, it's been a mix. So my dad's from Kenya, so we are already growing a bunch of dark leafy greens, but like callaloo is one that isn't eaten traditionally in Kenya. So that was a newer one. Garden egg is another one that's traditionally eaten by West African folks, but not as much on the East Coast. So it's been a mix of learning new crops, but hot peppers loved across multiple African countries and cultures. So it's been a mix of both like loving that I get to grow crops that are important to me, my culture, family, and heritage, but also learning about other folks' cultures and heritages as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't be shy.
All right, we do have a question from Milka Craigie, Craigie Farm. After COVID, life was hard financial of my family. The food bank really helped. We were planting callaloo and need more supply. Praise God, MFB helps.
Oh.
So it was more of a comment. So so that was a big shout out from Craigie Farm and the help from Maryland Food Bank. So thank you for that shout out.
How many farms do you say we work with now that you would say?
7, and Craigie Farm is one of them. An amazing family. They've just been so great in learning as they go and just absolutely determined to grow for the community.
Okay.
Hi, I have a question.
Hello.
I know most of the cropland in Maryland is used for animal feed, and I know that that also produces a lot of problems with monoculture. And as we're expanding this program, do you see some benefits, or what are your thoughts on the benefits for the ecological and the food system resiliency in Maryland, since we're now growing more diverse crops and more crops for human consumption?
So all of the farms that we work with grow multiple crops, non-monocrop, and they do the practices like improving the soil with cover crops. They do things like crop rotation. A lot of it is organic. I think perhaps all of it is, if not the vast majority. So all the things that really improve the land, not even just depleting, but add to it, is really a part of the program. Biodiversity too. One of the farms, Wood Duck Landing, is really active in conservation. State has come to him for answers to questions. So that is a big part of it, taking care of the environment.
Thank you.
Another in a long list of benefits, right? Okay. Well, anyway, I want to thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I think thank you to our distinguished panel of guests here, and Bukola especially, for all the work you're doing in the community that you serve. Congratulations. Thank you. And appreciate all you're doing there, and wish you the best of luck on your ongoing journey toward your doctorate. How much longer do you have to go? Sorry. We're ending on such a positive note, and I had to go there. Yeah, I know, right? So I apologize for bringing up a bad subject for you. But I hope we had a chance to talk a bit about the variety of ways the Maryland Food Bank is operating, right? And if you think about expanding access, we talked about engaging with communities, we talked about engaging with neighbors, we talked about dignity, we talked about nutritional content, we talked about biodiversity, we talked about propping up farms. And so this is a far different model than, the traditional food banking. Again, I don't think that's unique to Maryland Food Bank. The type of ways in which going about it, we think are unique to us, that we think we're having a tremendous impact in the communities we serve. We can't do that with the tremendous amount of support that we get from the state, public and private donors. All that helps us continue to do this important work to help support programs that, frankly, unfortunately, access to healthy, nutritious food is more expensive than not. And so, so we appreciate folks coming on that journey with us and providing the support that we need to keep doing what we need to do. And again, I want to say thank you to Kate for the incredible work you're doing within the organization in your 5 years. And again, Bukola, for joining us today and on your journey. So, and those of you here today, thanks for joining us.